By watching or listening to this show, you are acknowledging that you are of legal age to purchase and consume cannabis in your region. This production is for adults only. Welcome to the Cannabis 101 podcast, part of the Cannabis Life Experience. Your guide through the legalization and consumption of cannabis in Canada and beyond. Join us on this journey and adventure with the wonderful plant. Here's your host, Dean Millard.
Hello there, and welcome to episode 87 of the Cannabis 101 podcast. My name is Dean Millard. Yes, we are. It's Sidney Crosby episode for us, number 87. This is hour one. Hour number two will come out tomorrow morning. A really cool guest that we'll tell you about in a little bit. And it is indeed not just about getting high. It's about getting healthy. And we're going to talk about the health of the industry and what some of our own bodies do with cannabis and how we interact. All of that still to come on the program, but there is one unique way that we like to kick things off here on the show, and that's by finding out what's your groove.
Put that in your pipe and smoke it.
Can you dig it?
Kinda grabs you by the boo-boo, don't it?
Pipe in a grape, long in a blend.
This is great. This is the bee's knees.
Can you dig it?
So when I ask what's your groove, if you're new to the show, I'm asking while you're listening to this and you're grooving with something and it has to do with cannabis, I'd love to hear about it. Maybe you've got a joint, maybe you just got some relaxing CBD, maybe you've ate or drank something or vaped something, I don't know, whatever it might be, hit me up on Twitter at the Cannabis 101 and let us know what you are grooving with. I have in the slash from Stone Smiths the last of my Good Buds Mango Taffy flower rosin that I picked up, and I love it. 2 clicks, let it fire up, let it wait 4 seconds, and then you know it's ready to go. And then you vape away. So I enjoy it very much. I use it quite a bit, and now I'm going to have to go out and get some more concentrate to throw in the old slash-a-rooney. All right, here is what's coming down the hash pipe on this episode. For this week in Cannabis News, it's going to be me solo, and instead of David Wylie. David was tied up with some work stuff, as people are apt to be in these times. So David will rejoin us again next week, but Malcolm LaBelle will be here from the Green Generation Co., and we will discuss with her on the business of cannabis, the cannabis space and the trials and tribulations and how it is under siege from certain angles. We're also going to talk about a guy we recently interviewed, Tanner Stewart, in Game Changers, and what it means to be green. Well, we just passed St. Patrick's Day, and there's a 7-leaf plant out there called marijuana that hopefully is bringing a lot of people some luck. We're going to talk music and our cannabis question. Our cannabis character has to do with American Dad. Weed word of the day is about names for things, and we'll tell you about the Weed Weekly and our giveaway that we have every Friday. Only for subscribers that you can sign up to by visiting the website. Also want to say hello to all the people listening on gradio.ca. I love that the Cannabis 101 podcast is up there now and bringing you everything you need to know, or at least we want to throw at you. Certainly we don't have all the answers here, that's for sure, but we do have a lot of questions, and we try to get those answers for you. So you can check that out on gradio.ca. All right, let's start things off now with the cannabis question.
Prize time! Chime in on the cannabis question.
Okay.
And you could win a Cannabis 101 podcast prize pack.
Pipe and a grape, bong and a blint.
Hit us up on any of our social media feeds or email us at cannabis101podcast@gmail.com.
Okay, here we go.
So I don't know why I didn't ask this question last week when we actually had an artist on. Oh yeah, probably because I got high. Then I got high. Then I got high. It's the favorite song of my wife to sing when I forget to do something that I said I would do. But anyway, this is a question I should ask last week because we had a musical artist on. And we did talk a little bit about, what Charles Padalino from Sea of Cars does like to listen to. But now I want to know what you like to listen to while you are using cannabis. What bands, what music, what type, what genre? Maybe it's a bunch of different ones. Maybe it depends on the cultivar you have. Certainly, that could be a big one. If we're just talking general, probably the average, I would listen to Neil Young. He's my favorite artist of anybody out there. So I would probably, that would be my go-to is listening to Neil Young. I love that Apple Music allows you to create your own kind of station from what you listen to, or on satellite radio, they have all the genres. So stuff from the 70s, 60s, and the 70s are probably my favorite genre, especially when I'm getting high or consuming cannabis. I loved the 90s grunge. That's when I was a teenager in the mid to late 90s. So I love that as well. But when it comes to cannabis, if I had to pick, it'd probably be somebody like Neil Young, Crosby, Stills, Nash and Young. The band. I love listening to Levon Helm's voice. Probably people don't like it when I imitate him. But anyway, that's what I'm going with. And you can chime in on that, and you could get in the mix for a Cannabis 101 podcast prize pack. In fact, everybody that chimes in at any point during the show is entered into the Cannabis 101 podcast prize pack. We've got some cool hats from the OZ, among other things, to send out for those of you that chime in. And you can do that at the Cannabis 101 on Twitter. You can find us on Instagram and Facebook at the Cannabis 101 podcast. And you can participate in this and stay anonymous if that's what you would like by emailing cannabis101podcast@gmail.com. And we'll get a prize pack out to you if your name is drawn out of a hat. By the way, check out my vibe on Relevant. Download the app. It's a very new, cool way of socially interacting that is cannabis friendly. How many of you have had your cannabis stuff taken down on Instagram or Facebook or anything, even Twitter sometimes? This is a great place for you. Join the Cannabis 101 podcast party. We have a cool message board. We're having some live audio chats, Q&As with current and past guests, the listener, the viewer, you. I want you to be participating in this. Join in the fun, asking your questions, be a part of the program. So download the app, Relevant. The last E is irrelevant. It's not there. It's RELEVNT. And join my vibe, the Cannabis 101 podcast. Some really cool stuff that we're doing there and we're going to be doing. We're building our community, and we're going to have, like I said, a lot of live interactive sort of situations. So download the Relevant app and join the Cannabis 101 podcast vibe. Big thanks to Vibe for Relevant for allowing me to create my vibe and be a part of that. And of course, this show would not be possible without David Wylie of the OZ, Malcolm LaBelle from the Green Generation Company, and our friends like Stonesmiths. You can check them out at stonesmiths.ca. The creators of the Slash, beautifully created, built-in loader. It's beautiful now, although it was snowing earlier. We have a battery that is built to last and built for cold. So hopefully we don't need it a whole lot more. And they're also working on a new chamber that's going to heat up even faster and bring you even bigger vape clouds. So I cannot wait to see that and, see what happens out of that. All right, let's get to This Week in Cannabis News without David Wylie.
What's happening? We'll tell you right now on This Week in Cannabis News.
So this week, I am focusing on one particular story that I found on Reuters. And this is really, really concerning for me. We've talked a lot in this very segment with David Wylie about, what it could be happening within the United States as far as maybe federal legalization or the decriminalization. And what, Joe Biden's real stance is on this, because Joe Biden was not a positive person when it came to cannabis. And Kamala Harris brought that to his campaign and brought that to the White House and, by becoming the VP. And now we read this story from Reuters that the White House on Friday has fired 5 employees over marijuana use, even after announcing a more lenient policy towards use of the drug plant a few weeks ago. And White House Secretary Jen Psaki posted a tweet confirming the 5 removals after the Daily Beast reported that dozens of staffers had been suspended, asked to resign, or placed in a remote work program due to past marijuana use. Are they afraid it's contagious? Come on, reefer madness, White House. Quote, we announced a few weeks ago that the White House had worked with the security service to update the policies to ensure that past marijuana use wouldn't automatically disqualify staff from serving in the White House. Continuing, quote, the bottom line is this. Of the hundreds of people hired, only 5 people who had started working at the White House are no longer employed as a result of this policy. End quote. Oh, only 5. Is that the same as saying only X amount of people have died from COVID? Look how many people have lived. I mean, that's such an absurd statement. Now, one thing we should point out, and I should point out, is that we don't know what the 5 staffers' past indiscretions were, but I will just say this. I'm going to get more information on this story, obviously, as it develops and continues. But we need, as the public, and particularly to my American listeners and viewers, thank you very much for tuning in. But especially you guys need to hold Joe Biden to the same standards that everybody tried to hold Donald Trump to. Like, I'll freely admit, I try to stay away from a lot of politics, but on this show, you kind of have to, because we're talking about legislation and legalization and things like that. But I thought Donald Trump was an absolute tire fire. But I'm not just going to let Joe Biden off the hook because he's not Donald Trump. Joe Biden still has to live up to what he said he was going to do, whether that has to do with marijuana or anything else. So, the American people, please hold your president accountable with what he said. It is ridiculous that in 2021, people are still getting fired or, as was reported by the Daily Beast, suspended, asked to resign, or placed in remote work programs due to past marijuana use. Come on, man. That is absolutely ridiculous. So, please, hold the president accountable on this and many other things, because just because Joe Biden is not Donald Trump does not mean we have to let things slide. This is the president of the United States that said some things during the campaign, that campaigned on certain things, that told employees of the White House, the staff of the White House, certain things, and then this is something that happens. So, please, hold him accountable for many of the things that he has said and will still need to do to be a successful president. And, I hope something happens with legalization, but this is not a good start. This is not a good start when the president is using past marijuana, whatever, I don't know what the severity are, as grounds for removing after telling people it would be much more lenient. And using the only 5, that's bull. That's only 5. It doesn't matter. Still 5 people no longer have a job because of their past use of a plant. Come on, man. It's absolutely weak stuff from the White House. And that's a wrap with Dean Millard on This Week in Cannabis News. That is the wonderful Weed song from the artist My Dead Dog. You'll hear the marijuana song coming up a little bit later on. By the way, one more thing about that White House. Washington, D.C. legalized possession of marijuana for recreational use in 2015. And they are now firing people over that. Anyway. I want to tell you about the Cannabis and Hemp Expo that was supposed to be happening next month, but it has been postponed. Whenever this does take place, and hopefully it will, we'll be there broadcasting episodes of the Cannabis 101 podcast. You can find more information at cannabishempexpo.com. And whenever this event gets off the ground, we will have some free tickets to give away. And as mentioned, be broadcasting episodes from the Expo Center or wherever this is going to be held.
You got a joint? No, not on me, man. It'd be a lot cooler if you did.
Time now for Cannabis Characters.
Dopest dope I've ever smoked.
Celebrating the best from fictional 420 film.
Hey, I am your stoner.
And beyond.
Heavy girl with that, man. Is it heavy stuff, man?
All right, so here is our cannabis character for today, going with Klaus Heisler, voiced by D. Bradley Baker from American Dad. And this is the voice of the goldfish on American Dad. It's a bizarre show if you've never seen it. You know, Family Guy has a talking dog. This show has an alien and a talking goldfish, among other things. So I think that this show is pretty funny. I've been watching a lot of it on Adult Swim as of late. And yeah, it's got some pretty good cannabis humor going on as well. So we're going to focus on the character of Klaus Heisler, voiced by D. Bradley Baker from American Dad. And in this clip, the fish gets into the brownies and actually is quite hilarious.
What?
What?
Has anyone seen the scuba diver that floats in my tank? It's been 2 days, and I'm starting to get worried. Brownies!
Oh, Klaus, no, don't eat that.
Why?
Wait, Luke would be on drums?
Nine. Luke would be on lead guitar, Chewie on drums, and Darth Vader on bass.
Oh, that would be the greatest concert of all time.
Yeah.
Wait, what would Yoda play?
Oh, I forgot about Yoda! They say if you play it backwards, you can hear the voice of a dead kid.
Whoa, wait, how do you play Monopoly backwards?
Some pretty funny stuff, a little bit of a scene mashed together with Klaus. I love playing, everybody talks about playing Sabbath on 78 speed, as Tommy Chong, Bob Bitchin said in one of their tapes, or playing Sabbath backwards, you hear the devil, and you play Monopoly backwards and you hear that. So quite interesting stuff from American Dad, the same creator as Family Guy, Seth MacFarlane. But I love it. I think it's so funny. And Haley is and her boyfriend, her husband Jeff, are the big stoners in the show. But obviously Klaus getting involved as well. So there you go. Klaus Heisler, the goldfish, voiced by D. Bradley Baker from American Dad. And that is our cannabis character today.
This is The Business of Cannabis, a joint venture between the Green Generation Co. and the Cannabis 101 podcast. Bringing you the latest bud, biz, buzz.
Another segment of The Business of Cannabis here on the Cannabis 101 podcast with Malka LaBelle of the Green Generation Company. You can find her online at www.greengencompany.com and find out how Malka can help you. And I can help Malka right away with a weather report because it is snowing a whole lot out my window right now in Edmonton. So your spring is going to have to wait, Malka.
Oh, don't say that. It was gorgeous this morning. It was gorgeous all weekend.
Let's
not jinx it. Don't even. Oh my God, go away. Go away. I'm happy to be getting to BC later this week to all my buddies, clients, and customers. Hopefully it's nicer out there than out here in Alberta.
Indeed. So we're under siege here with this spring snowstorm. And the lead this week is about the cannabis industry under siege from all sides. What do you mean by this?
Yeah, it's kind of like a feeling that has lots of evidence in different places. So I listed 5 different places where I believe are sort of attacking the cannabis industry as a whole or in Canada. Number one, I would say, consistently our friends, family, neighbors that still just don't get it and don't understand how this is an industry or a thing or why people would use cannabis, still scratching their heads. And that's okay. People are allowed to not get it. So then maybe let's just learn a bit. They need to take a step back and do a little bit more learning, which is fine. The other place is more of an opportunity for the industry is we're seeing a lot more foreign investors with big fat wallets and opportunistic approaches to buying up an industry that might be able to help theirs or help their cause. So we're seeing a lot of bids or buying up of private and public companies from foreign buyers with well-funded history of deep pockets. We're also seeing a lot of multinational companies that may have had a sort of a dark record or a black spot in the past, like i.e. tobacco. I wanted to say the stinky record. I don't know if that's the right word, but we're seeing a lot of that happening. And honestly, I was originally sort of really concerned about this, but in diving deeper into the actual deals, it's actually been a good thing. They've really held up in terms of the value of cannabis companies. So under siege, maybe not so much as more as let's just do the metrics here before, giving ourselves over to an industry that, has not had the best reputation for creating positive or benefits to their end users. And then the other one is from regulators and governments that are just still, again, scratching their heads. They look at cannabis from a risk-only perspective. And I just came off a call with this at the table where they were literally only looking at it from the harm of people perspective. And there's no space for considering the positive benefits of cannabis as an industry or as a product or as a commodity, really not seeing there's a place to put a check mark next to what are the positive health outcomes, the stress possibility for helping people deal with things like that, or, possibly a job count. How many jobs has the industry provided to Canadians and worldwide with legalization in different forms? Mounting government debt with COVID. You want to know about how to fix that trillions of dollars of debt crisis. What about a new industry to get things going? Can we put a check mark there? Economic diversification, not being so held up on oil and gas or other industries that are sort of having their dying days. And really the diversity of ideas and innovation. Does it have to be tech? Everything has to be tech these days, but really innovation is just doing something new to an old thing. So could it be that? So these are the things that I'm not seeing as really being recognized. And this is why I'm saying it's under siege. And I put this picture here of Ellie Wiesel, this quote from him, because I saw this cross my LinkedIn. And this is exactly what we mean is there's a lot of people who just are afraid to stand up for saying what they believe. And this has really come out of the whole cancel culture in the US and lots of places where people's belief systems are being challenged because they have that belief system. And that is, in my opinion, not cool. And this is why. So Ellie Wiesel, if you don't know who that is, you need to do a little bit of a search on him. He's a Holocaust survivor, and he went on to survive, not only survive Auschwitz and the death camps, but he went on to write many, many pieces of work, including literature that we read. It was mandatory in junior high and high school. Night by Ellie Wiesel is one of the most famous books that he wrote. It's not very long, but it's an eye-opening, riveting experience from a literary perspective of basically the harms that people can suffer at the hands of others. And he's essentially coming out and saying here, people always, take sides, but neutrality helps the oppressor. So that means if you're neutral, if you don't say what your position is, then you're really never the victim is going to be helped here. Silence encourages the tormentor, never the tormented. And it's basically just a statement that if you don't say anything, if your beliefs are strong, but you don't say them, you're essentially just helping the people that are against your beliefs. And that's the piece of this that I think is missing. And the summation of that is with the CPG company really still going hard on that THC percentage. And really that's like the only thing that tenders can talk about is that percentage and sell on. This is a fundamental lack of really understanding the nature of this plant, and that we just don't understand it yet. And I think that this quote by J. Scott Turner that Cody Peterson posted, and Cody Peterson is a fantastic, he's a medical pediatric pharmacist from the States who's been very vocal about the science and research understanding the endocannabinoid system and how it interacts with the human body. He posted this thing saying that the endocannabinoid system is shared amongst most living creatures. And to think about that in the quote is homeostasis is life's fundamental property, which distinguishes us from non-life. In short, homeostasis is life. And cannabis helps with homeostasis. And that's the fundamental difference of this plant than any other CPG product, any other ingredient, anything else on this earth that we've marketed or sold. And essentially, it works with our bodies naturally. It doesn't need a sales team in some cases. You just need to try it, and it will work unto of itself. And if you got the right thing, just try another one. There isn't a lot of harm in that. And this is the point I'm getting at, is that we're under siege from a lack of understanding. We're under siege by people that have a lot of money, but really we're really under siege at the risk of losing what the actual benefits of the cannabis plant are in its natural plant form. And as Canadians, we lose that risk because if we haven't spoken clearly and loud enough, because Canadians tend to not do that as much, we risk our advantage of Canadians and our country and our wonderful place being the place that's going to receive the outcomes and the positive benefits of that in the long run.
Yeah, and a lot's to unpack in that. But the one thing I agree with is, why can't we be promoting the industry, the jobs, the job creation? I don't think we're ever going to get the federal government to talk about health benefits of recreational cannabis. I don't think that's ever going to happen. There are medical benefits. Maybe we can make progress on the medical side, although that needs a whole lot of work. But I am starting to see, the bud tenders that I talk to, you could tell which bud tender is experienced, which bud tender is educated by them talking about more than just THC and the different things that we're always talking about, the entourage effect. But there is so much more about this plant that could be explained to people on such a bigger level than just at the bud tender level. So we have a lot of work to go. I know people like you and Nathan Meissen and others are working really hard on trying to make some changes, and this is how we do it. Like, we keep pounding the pavement. Baseball 1 out of 3 is really, really good, and we if we convince 1 out of 3 people, we're doing pretty good.
Yeah, and the budtenders are the answer, actually. You're 100% right. If every budtender spoke to not just the people that came into their store, but everyone else around their world, even their member of MLA or their member of parliament, that actually does turn the needle. So having more people at the grassroots level that are seeing the benefits by having a job, by having a voice, by not being, essentially employed by the government because they don't have any other work, those are the people that are really going to make the change. And you're 100% right. They just need to do it a little bit more and a little bit often, and we'll see more change faster.
Yeah. And maybe we can see some sort of PSAs or advertisements that are encouraging people to learn about the plant, and just instead of just telling them all the harmful effects, do your own research as an adult and make your own choice, like the free people that we are. It would be nice to see a little bit more encouragement from that. One thing we don't need to encourage is how good of things that this next gentleman is doing that we're going to talk about in Changemakers. And I just recently had him on. We talked about their bath bombs. I love the Blue Dream bath bomb because Blue Dream is my jam. And we're talking about Tanner Stewart, Cannabis Superhero.
Yeah, I love Tanner. So exactly. And sometimes I feel that I see all the stuff that he's working on in different places. And I do feel that he is bearing the weight of the world on his shoulders sometimes, especially with the recent stuff in New Brunswick. He's really come out to help the industry and not let it be overrun by foreign investors who don't have the interest of New Brunswickers or Canadians, if that's the right term, or Canadians at heart. So basically, this is what I want to shout out. Like, he's literally, I feel he's done so much, and not only in the plants that he's growing and the products that they're making. Aquaponics is his jam in terms of how they grow. In New Brunswick with his food and fish, medicine, farm to table, that whole concept. Before that, though, he was a real thought leader and an executive producer behind this Netflix, or actually it's a Prime movie now, The Need to Grow. And it was co-executive produced by himself and Rosario Dawson and narrated by Rosario Dawson. So it's a really wonderful movie to see, to hear, and to listen to. And I actually heard about it from Tanner himself. And this is the kind of thing I heard. This is the best quote. I love this. This is from a political person, formerly in politics. She's working with me as an advisor. And basically she said, these kinds of documentaries on Netflix or whatever, Prime, are the kind of things that politicians hate. And it's because it's because their constituents and the people that are around them that they're supporting are become more educated than they do in a very short period of time. And that's what's happening with these kinds of Netflix and documentary specials that are really highlighting the basic things that we need in our world. Like The Need to Grow is all about plants being the foundation of rejuvenation of our planet. Just let's grow more plants. And sort of that's the point. And this is the piece that the politicians have a hard time wrapping their head around. It's like, well, how do we affect change if we just need to grow plants? Like, it sort of like takes them out of the picture. But it's just an education piece. Like you said, it's turn on Netflix, turn on Prime, and you will see some of these amazing, well-done documentaries like people like Tanner did in his early days that are essentially laying the groundwork for the belief system and the values that are needed to underpin the cannabis sector, and then go further like he already has, and mentoring other microgrowers and pioneering sustainable packaging and the bath bombs are inside of.
Yeah, everything. The wrap around the actual bomb is biodegradable. So it's amazing. There are some really, really good documentaries out there, and that, of course, is one of them. Another good one, if people really want to see how cannabis can be beneficial on the medical side, watch Weed the People. Get a tissue box because it's a tough watch, but it is amazing to see some of the results. So if you're a non-believer and you can get through Weed the People and still think cannabis is devil's lettuce and awful, then and I'm not sure you have a soul or a heart, because those things are wonderful. And this one, and as you mentioned off the top, the public profile that he has out east and lobbying the government to not make it a monopoly and things like that. Like he cares about the industry because he wants to put food on his table, but he cares about the industry because he believes in it as well. And that's why the title is appropriate, Cannabis Superhero.
Yeah, a change maker forever.
Indeed. All right. As for what it means to be green, wow, this is very, very green, and I just feel lucky looking at it.
Thank you. I hope so. This is I put together my lucky charm. So the funny thing about the cannabis New Brunswick piece, there's the bottom corner. So that was actually on his post from the CBC that Tanner did, because there's literally a cannabis store at the end of the rainbow. I just thought it was so appropriate. So this is all about, it was just this past week. It was St. Patrick's Day and the luck of the Irish and the green clover. I wanted to reflect on that for a minute. And really this week, this month, this year, at least for me, has been filled with a number of unexpected twists and turns that have all popped up and really challenged my ability to be. Like, really, I've had to really question what it is to be Malka and what it is to be a person. And I really have aligned with my green means go, with the color green, as my approach to how do I navigate some of these really complex things that are going on in this world, and trying to look for signs, look for the signs that maybe this is the right direction. And I use the analogy, this is just, there's no analogy. Green has been the color of choice for my business. It's been the color of choice for the industry. And I'm hoping that there's a pot of gold, not necessarily in actual gold, but in good vibes, which is why I put that little sign there, in prosperity and happiness. And that maybe the 7-leaf flower, which is the cannabis flower, will turn into a 4-leaf flower and be lucky for all of myself and for everyone that surrounds me. So that's my hope and my wish, is that what it means to be green. And there's some Patricks along the way. So there's actually 3 Patrick names of person. Their actual birth name was Patrick, that have come up in the last 18 months that were those turning points. Those are the points in the road. Patrick was Otis Raw. Patrick was the passing of Patrick Romeo, and Patrick from Zone 3. Those are 3 actual people named Patrick that all come up, which posed that fork to me. And I went with the green path. So hopefully those are the right decisions. And the luck of the Irish hopefully is on my side.
Yeah, well, pot of gold can mean many things without it being gold, as you mentioned. Fulfillment, satisfaction, good relationships, good friendships, just watching the plant grow before us. So, whatever's at the end of that rainbow is different for so many people, but involving it with the color green seems to be apropos for this segment, this show, and this entire industry. Maybe we got to come up with some 7-leaf clovers out there as some sort of good luck charm for people.
Love it. That's the next challenge, G. That's the next challenge.
Indeed. All right. Well, you can find out how Malka can help you by heading to www.greengencompany.com and get Malka on your side. Thank you so much, as always, for joining me, Malka. Hopefully the snow will stop soon and spring can continue. And, of course, have a wonderful trip out west. I can't wait to chat with you again and hear all about it.
Thanks, Dean. You have a great week, too.
This is the Cannabis 101 podcast. It's all part of the cannabis life experience. Turning the wheel of cannabis one toke at a time.
All right. Past episodes can be found at www.cannabis101podcast.ca. There's the website right there if you're watching. If you're listening and you'd like to check us out, we have a YouTube channel, cannabis101podcast.ca. Our YouTube channel is Cannabis 101 Podcast. The website is cannabis101podcast.ca. You can get to that as well. You can also sign up for the Weed Weekly. That gets you an email in your inbox every Friday, recapping the show, bringing you some new cool things, and giving away a Cannabis 101 podcast. And if you do feel like helping us out, we do have a Patreon account and a button right there that you can help out, which is hopefully one of your favorite podcasts. And if you would like to get one of my favorite devices, it's the Slash from Stonesmiths. They're one of our partners, along with David Wylie and Malka LaBelle, who you just heard on The Business of Cannabis, and I absolutely love it. It just takes 4 seconds to heat up. You got 3 different temperature settings, and yeah, the team at Stonesmiths, they've got the Slash dialed in, and it's absolutely amazing. It's going to be so much fun using the Slash this summer on some really cool camping trips and different things that I will hopefully be able to do as long as things clear up COVID-wise. Check them out on the web, www.stonesmiths.ca.
Bud, dope, flower, ganja, Mary Jane.
We all have our own language when it comes to cannabis.
Herb, John Lennon, plant, Thai stick, salad.
So let's explore another weed word of the day.
Samuel L. Jackson, The Hobbit's Leaf, Lady Gaga, 420.
All right, so if you're watching, you can see the couple of words that we're talking about, dope and cannabinoids. So dope is a very old term. Some say it comes from the Dutch word doop, which means a thick sauce and is meant as an insult when calling a person a dupe, and then it became dope, I guess, North Americanized maybe. It was used for opium in the 1800s. Like if you watch a lot of Westerns where there's any kind of opium element, they'll call it dope. Like, this guy's on the dope. Doc Holliday's on the dope or whatever. This is on the dope. They're sucking opium. I think in one of the Wyatt Earp movies that happened. Definitely in some of the other movies that I've seen, guys get on the dope in the old Westerns. And then in the 90s, in the 1900s rather, it was a term for weed. They started calling dope weed a little bit. Now, these days, if you ask somebody for dope, you're probably asking for heroin. They're going to think you're asking for heroin, especially if they're in the drug business. My father-in-law and one of my buddy's father have used it to refer to people that smoke weed as dopers or on the dope, but not really. Like we kind of joke around about it because of that nowadays. And I don't even think I ever called it dope, really. Weed, marijuana, whatever, bud, tree. I don't think I called it dope until I heard other people saying it about smoking weed, and I'm like, what decade were you born in? Obviously not the same one as me. So, and that just goes to show that there's different terms for different eras and things like that, obviously. The other standard term we're going with is cannabinoids. And so these are compounds in the cannabis plant that interact with the body's endocannabinoid system. The two main cannabis receptors are CB1 and CB2. This is how pain relief is distributed in the body, especially using cannabis. Caryophyllene binds with the CB2 receptors, and it is a rare terpene and cannabinoid. The most well-known cannabinoids are THC and CBD, and those are probably the ones that you've heard. Now you know what they are. THC obviously has the more psychoactive effect. CBD is more for different kind of pain relief and just relaxation, anxiety. Soon, though, you will start hearing more about cannabinoids like CBG. There's one called CBC. I don't know if it has anything to do with Hockey Night in Canada or not. And there's much more. So that's what cannabinoids are. When you hear, if you're very new to cannabis and you hear THC and CBD, they are a cannabinoid. There are many of them, and still a lot of them still to be discovered. There's so many different compounds that are within the cannabis plant, and we are still discovering it. Literally, as Nathan Meissen likes to say, it's the tip of the iceberg. We only know maybe the 10% about the plant yet, and we're diving in down low, down below the sea to find out what exactly this plant can do with us. And man, when that happens, look out, because it'll be an unbelievable cannabis experience for all of us.
The Cannabis Life Experience. It's not just about getting high. It's about getting healthy. Turning the wheel of cannabis, one toke at a time.
All right, thank you very much for tuning in to this episode, 87 Hour 1. If you did enjoy it, please subscribe to our YouTube channel. Click that bell. You'll get a notification every time an episode comes out. And please, wherever you're watching or wherever you're listening, leave us a review. Let us know, what you think of the show. Love to hear how we can improve the show. And obviously, those reviews are pretty important for podcasters like myself. You can join the Cannabis 101 podcast vibe at Relevant. Download the app. The last E isn't there. It's RELEVENT. RELEVNT. Just download the app, find us, and join the party. We're going to have lots of things going on over there in the next little while and ongoing. And of course, you can head to the Cannabis 101podcast.ca where you could subscribe to the weekly. Find out what is happening with the Cannabis 101 podcast, catch up, and only if you're in the mix will you receive this and be entered into the Wheel of Names. We spin it every Friday and give away a prize pack, but it is only for subscribers. Plus, it's an easy way to keep up to date with what is hopefully one of your favorite podcasts. If you'd like to become a partner, email me, cannabis101podcast@gmail.com, or if you think you would make a great guest, would love to hear from people who have a great story. Reach out with an email. Hour number 2 comes your way on Wednesday morning, and it's going to feature Kevin Anderson, head grower of Broken Coast, in a unique format, an interview that will set up our feature interview, and of course Chris Ianson, our regional manager from Plant Life Canada, on Know Your Buds. He is our educator, and we'll dive into another cultivar there. As mentioned, past episodes at cannabis101podcast.ca, and you can find other shows at podcastalley.ca. I've got a few fantasy hockey and scouting shows on that one as well, and you can find everything at podcastalley.ca. Thank you so much for tuning in. Big thanks to Malcolm LaBelle for a really cool segment that we did on the business of cannabis. David Wylie will join us next week. I'll talk to you tomorrow, and then individual segments start coming out on Thursday. Remember, it's not just about getting high, it's about getting healthy. And I leave you, as we always do, with the marijuana song from the artist My Dead Dog.